My parents were a bit conservative about what I watched when I was growing up. There were supposed to be no video games with blood, all PG-13 movies had to be Googled, and there were absolutely no F-words allowed. I remember even finding a library book about mummies, and I opened it up, and there are all these pictures of dried up organs, and I was like, oh geez, my parents would get mad at me if I brought this home. Now looking back, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have been mad or anything, it's just that's how fragile my little innocent mind was back in the day. So when I saw stuff that was certifiably spooky, it effed me straight up. So like, here's a trigger warning, there's gonna be some spooky stuff being shown in this video. There's gonna be blood and eyeballs and existential terror. It's like all here. So if any of that bugs you, feel free to click away. There's gonna be no judgment. Find something nicer to watch. Okay, here we go. So a lot of the scary stuff I remember was when I was about 5 or 6 years old. So I was super young and I was walking through an elementary school library and I spotted the cover for Shocker on Shock Street and I was like, yo, I don't know what this Goosebumps stuff is, but I want all of it right now. My mom took me to a VHS rental store because that was still a thing in 2005 and we picked up a copy of The Haunted Mask on VHS. So I sat down to watch it and I was expecting like body parts flying off and dead people and flesh peeling, and that's mainly because I had no idea how silly the show actually was. Unfortunately, I got started off with the freakiest episode in the whole series, so rest in peace, 5-year-old Nate. The episode starts off with the ever so charismatic R.L. Stine giving an introduction.
Hello, I'm R.L. Stine. I write the Goosebumps books.
Man, this guy just reeks of star quality, doesn't he? Yeah, he also literally spoils the ending, so nice going.
And it ends when she discovers there is nothing more powerful than the love of her family and friends.
So Carly Beth and her friendo are outside stealing pumpkins when they uncover the most dedicated bullies ever. These kids buried themselves and are waiting for possibly hours on end for these specific kids to wander over to that very location to jump out, so like props to them. This makes Carly Beth appropriately angry and she goes home. Her mom surprised her with a gift. It's a plaster bust of her daughter's head. Thanks, Mom. That's really thoughtful of you. Then we cut to Carly Beth's school, and the same bullies put a worm in her sandwich. And here's a fun fact, by the way. The actress Catherine Long insisted that they put a real worm in her sandwich. I mean, that probably wouldn't fly today, but still, that embarrasses her hardcore, and she rips up her Halloween duck costume that her mother made in a fit of rage. So in order to get back at the bullies, she goes to a creepy novelty shop and she wanders into a back room, and the owner isn't exactly too happy about that.
You're not supposed to be here.
And neither are these masks. So she steals a mask and the store owner like does nothing about it. Carly Beth sticks that creepy head on a stick and she goes trick-or-treating. The mask starts toying with her head and then she just kind of acts like a jerk to everybody. She meets up with her friend who isn't exactly a fan of the mask, and then Carly Beth has a seizure. After trick-or-treating for a bit, Carly Beth runs off into the night to find the bullies, and then she corners them in the graveyard. Now, this is where the traumatic stuff starts happening, okay?
Help me. Talked. Please help me.
Look at this! This isn't for kids. I was 5 years old when I saw this and it gave me nightmares for the rest of the week. The worst part is that this show never explains why it happens. It just does and it freaks me out and you guys are jerks. So she goes home and the mask won't come off. So she returns back to the novelty shop to figure out what the heck is going on. The store owner reveals that he made the masks because he didn't love himself or something stupid. And then all the other masks start floating up and then they chase her, and here's spooky moment number 2. You see this? They're moaning and they're chanting and they're chasing after Carly Beth, and my 5-year-old mind was like, oh my god, this is some satanic levels of stuff. Jesus bless this house. This part freaked me out so much that I turned off the video and I made my mom watch the rest of it with me. Anyway, the masks are scared off by the head bust thing, and to be honest, I don't really blame them. Her little brother puts on the mask. The end. So next is Invader Zim. I used to be into this show a lot until I saw the episode Bestest Friend. First off, let me just say that this show is pretty unsettling. Everyone is either an idiot or they're evil, except Gurr, who's been reduced to a Hot Topic icon. The soundtrack is heavy and unpleasant, the imagery is gross and grim, and it doesn't have happy endings most of the time. Props to them for having artistic merit, but I mean, it scared me and all my friends, so like, could you not? The episode starts off when Zim realizes that he doesn't have any friends and he doesn't want to raise suspicion because he doesn't want to get caught as being an alien to invade them. So he sets out to make a best friend, and in order to determine which of the kids would be fit to be his best friend, he tortures them.
I have devised some simple tests to determine who is the worthiest.
Oh, hey! Oh.
All these kids are left traumatized and scarred except for one kid named Keith, and he's literally the sweetest thing ever. He's a marshmallow and Zim is mean to him for no reason whatsoever. So the story progresses and Keith gets a little intrusive and spooky. So Zim tries to get him to leave alone, so Keith assumes, oh well, Zim is just depressed and something, so I'm gonna throw him a surprise party to cheer him up. This is a little problematic seeing how Zim is an alien and he doesn't want to be discovered, so he does this.
Thank you, Zim. Keith.
Okay, let's analyze this scene a bit. So, these little gripper things are metallic and pointy. The knife sound effects certainly don't help out. The camera pans over to the wall where you see the fingers insert themselves into Keith's skull. He starts screaming in pain as the arms struggle to remove his eyes. His eyeballs are forced out of his head, and then the robotic mind control eyes are placed into his head. Also, let's give the soundtrack a listen to as well. Yeah, that's terrifying and it's still scary today, and I don't like this scene one bit. To top it off, it ends with sweet old Keith getting mauled by a squirrel and then he falls off a building. Keeping in theme with eyeballs, we have the 1999 version of The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. Man, what happened to that guy? This movie is freaking awesome. It's silly and it's stupid and it's perfectly charming and fun, and I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But my 6-year-old self doesn't agree. Nothing in this movie really scared me too badly until we got to this one scene. So the main characters are exploring the mummy's tomb after awakening it, and they're all chased out by booby traps. Evelyn has been wandering alone and she's finally relieved when she runs into a party member.
Oh, Mr. Burns, thank goodness. I was just starting to get scared. I've lost everyone.
It may come as a surprise, but even today I have this weird thing with eyeballs. My grandma used to have cable, so whenever we went over there, we'd watch the cartoon channels, and Hey Arnold was one of my favorites, although I do remember one episode particularly. So everyone is walking past the city graveyard, and then Gerald tells a spooky ghost story. About like 80 years prior, some lady was waiting on her wedding day for her fiancé to show up. Turns out that guy was across the street getting married to her sister, which is pretty cold. To get even, she wakes up in the middle of the night and then she puts on her wedding gown. Then she heads down to the basement to grab an axe, yes, an axe. And then she breaks into her sister's house. She finds her fiancé and sister sleeping, and then she proceeds to chop them up in their bed. When the police arrive the next morning, she's sitting next to the corpses in a rocking chair humming a wedding march. When they wander in, she commits suicide by jumping out the window, you know, like in other kids' shows. It was at that point when my grandma made me turn off because it was getting a little too scary, so like, nice going Nickelodeon, you guys are doing great. This is like 2, man. Okay, here's a popular choice. Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Apparently, the head exploding scene freaked everyone out as kids, but guess what? I chickened out and I walked in the room every time this part happened, so joke's on you. I didn't see it till I was 13. No, the part that scared me was the plane fight. Indy and this buff Nazi guy get into a fist fight next to a plane, and then this happens.
Come on,
I remember watching this movie with my grandpa and he laughed when it happened. I was like, what the heck, that was horrifying. But now I get why he was laughing, and this scene makes me crack a smile too. Remember kids, the only good Nazi is a dead Nazi.
He's become kind of a symbol.
Okay, last one. I understand that this one's a weird choice, but Sausage Party freaked me out. Now, okay, I understand that this is childhood trauma, but I saw this when I was 16, so like, that's technically my childhood, so you can shut up. Around this time period when the movie came out, I was going through a horrific existential crisis that lasted months. I just woke up one morning and I realized, oh god, nothing matters, everyone I know and love is going to die, and there's no afterlife, and I've been lied to my entire life. And then I went to go see Sausage Party with my family. The whole movie was pretty much an analogy for humanity's relationship with religion, and how we're all destined for eternal oblivion, and how there's nothing we can do about it, and we make up fake stories about gods and heaven to calm people down. Eventually, that becomes perverted, and then the initial nobility is lost, and it's used like a political weapon against folks. It's you know, standard animated fare. I related to the main characters a lot. Everything that they believed for their entire lives was stripped away from them, and then they were left in a cold, isolated, and savage universe. I was pretty uncomfortable throughout the entire runtime, but then the villain was introduced.
Yo! Oh!
Heck.
Yeah, dude. Somebody call a doctor, 'cause honestly, this baby's sick.
Actually, I feel great. Real healthy.
Not yo.
Yeah, he's a literal walking douche that murders food and gets stronger. He calls it juicing. It's pretty clever and everything, but it hit way too close to home for me. First off, he resembled the bullies from my childhood who talked and acted similarly. And every time that he killed someone, I would just sit in my chair thinking about how that character would never have another thought or feeling arise for the rest of eternity with no hopes of ever returning. So when he was on screen, I was tense and emotionally affected and distressed. He was an embodiment of the existential fears and distress that I was feeling at the time, and he was a much scarier villain to me than I'm sure the filmmakers were intending. In my opinion, that's the scariest out of all the movies and shows. I mean, sure, talking busts and floating masks and eyeballs and axe brides and plane propellers are scary enough, but the tragic and fragile human condition, that's the freakiest out of all of them. The meager and helpless state that our species lives in still keeps me up at night. What's good about movies is that they're all fake and they're not real and they can't hurt you. I figured that out when I was about 7 or so. But the uncaring and absurd universe that we live in, that's 100% real, and you're gonna face it one day with or without your permission. Nothing you do will be remembered. Every feeling, thought, and action that you've ever had or done will be forgotten because there's nobody to remember it, and that's really traumatic. So hey, that was my list, and thank you for watching. What were some things that scared you as a kid? Comment, I don't care. I'm just saying that to sound all official and YouTubey and stuff. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe and share and check out my Patreon, listen to Audible and tell your friends.